Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Wild Portishead Live. Good Lord, Chris. We're doing these regularly now, aren't we?
Isn't it? Hey, is that a different theme tune?
Yes.
Have you got permission for that one?
Sorry?
Have you got permission for that one?
Yes, we did get permission for that one because that was by a band that I happen to know. So there we go. Yeah, we not rights issues, but because it's politics, the music that we were using previously, which we had permission to use, they went, if you don't mind, and I said, yeah, fine, we'll switch it to somebody else. So we've changed it for all the candidates. So there we go. Anyway, Chris, we've got a guest tonight. We've got Sadiq Al Hussain, who's the Labour candidate for the North Somerset area, and we'll have him on in a moment. But what did you want to talk about first of all?
Well, I wanted to talk about a little bit of everybody working together to get to a solution, and it involves an allotment, which is in Portishead. I'm not going to say which one, but they basically withdrew all the rodent poisons and wanted a much more eco-friendly environment. And they asked me if there were any predators that I thought would be on their side, would help them, a little bit of natural help, so to speak. So when I went along, I saw that there was a woodland very close by, and I thought, one of the things lacking in that particular part of the woodland was a sufficient natural nest cavity, so a hole in a tree in English. And so between myself and the allotment and Portishead Town Council, we all got together. We got a couple of tawny owl boxes up. Now, that was in 2020. I'm very pleased to report that the whole thing has now come full circle. And if you want to put the first picture up, there we are. This is a non-intrusive way of looking into a box. So ordinarily, when people are nest checking, what they would do is put a ladder against the tree, and that might disturb the female. And so what I use is a camera on a stalk. So I don't put a ladder against a tree. It's basically a flexible camera, tiny little camera that goes inside the box. And you can see that she's looking up because there's something looking at her, but she doesn't move. She doesn't come off. And just towards her, the edge of her face, you can see something white and fluffy. Well, that's one of the owlets. So we know we've been successful. So if you go to the next picture, obviously from that we didn't know how many, but here are two. So she had two owlets, and both of them we know are feeding on getting a mixture of food, and it's predominantly things like wood mice, bank voles, and wait for it, brown rats.
Excellent.
And the occasional grey squirrel as well is going in there. So, and if you go to the next picture, the ultimate picture is here as well. So this is one of the owlets now branched on the left-hand side. You can see it's lovely down color. So they branch, which means they come out from the nest, but they can't fly for at least another month. So what they do is just jump branch to branch. They're very, very vulnerable at this stage. And basically the owlet will keep out the way. But if you look to the right, you've then got an adult, which is hunting. And this is their tawny owl's hunting method, just literally sitting on a post, and it's looking straight into the allotment. So it's feeding off the allotment. So it's doing its job. And so that's a natural based solution. End of that. And I think there's another bit to the story I want to tell, but it's much more longer and drawn out, and we haven't got time. And there's another success I want to talk about that's in Portishead, but we haven't got time this evening. So that's just a quick update that I wanted to give everybody, because I think people have been waiting for that news for about 3 weeks.
Yep, that's brilliant, Chris. What we'll do is we'll do my bit of news after we've spoken to our guest tonight, Mr. Sadiq Al Hussain, the Labour candidate for the North Somerset ward. How are you doing, Sadiq?
Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Chris. Hello, everybody watching online. Very nice to be here on an evening where it's not raining, so I was able to come outside.
I know. Yeah. I was just looking over at the hill there. There's a big black cloud coming over Nash Hill, but I'm sure we'll be fine tonight.
Yeah, I'm giving you until it rains.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm actually looking out the other way towards Western Bigwood, and it's absolutely clear, beautiful. Gorgeous. Going to be a brilliant sunset.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah,
Okay.
Chris, you've got some questions.
Well, I just want to say on allotments before you move on, I just, from my experience of allotments as well, it's really important that those that have them make sure that they look after their waste materials, make sure they rat proof them, and make sure that they harvest any fruits and vegetables at the right time, because all of that encourages rats if they don't.
Brilliant. Yep. Okay, I've got a question, and we're not changing the question at all.
Nope.
Hello, who's got the dog?
Not me.
So we're not changing the question. So the question's the same. And that is basically, Sadiq, what do you think is, to you personally, what do you think is special about the North Somerset natural environment? And also, should you win on July the 4th, you go into Parliament, what is it you would do in order to protect it, enhance it, whatever?
Okay, so absolutely fantastic question. First of all, we've all been throughout North Somerset, and it is spectacular because we've got 40%, greenbelt, and a large chunk of the rest of it is floodplain. So, we do need to make sure we watch how we, kind of prepare for our changing climate. Now, one of the eagle-eyed, people who've watched some of the campaign videos might notice I have a little fondness for Portbury Wharf and, the nature reserve around there. And it does actually feature in my campaign video because it's one of my favorite nature spots. And, it's a beautiful walk. It's a really fantastic way to connect to nature. And actually, it is so close to Portishead, developments, that it's such a great place to take kids, to understand and explore some of the natural world. So, I really enjoy myself. And it's something that allows you to breathe a little bit easier sometimes when you get out there and explore a little bit of nature. I was very lucky while I was out leafleting, actually, funnily enough. I was talking to some Labour members, and I was in Tickenham, and I was at the bottom of Stonehenge Lane, and there's a beautiful little bit of forest walk just around there. And I took a few moments for myself, and I had a little wander around, and it's beautiful. And there are so many beautiful sites across North Somerset. And, as MP, I would protect them. I would protect the green belt. I think it's an important part of, our natural heritage that we need to maintain and help people connect with. We often find that nowadays we live quite a disconnected life from nature. We don't always, spend a lot of time enjoying the things around us. Now, Greenbelt, you probably all know, was a Labour creation. So the Labour Party, as far as I'm aware, created Greenbelts to help people, connect with nature, but also have that kind of, nature nearby, stopping the sprawl of cities and towns so that they, didn't consume everything around them. And, I commit to doing the same. And, the bit as well, I would very much like us to continue to invest in ways that we can, connect with nature and explore more. I've been learning a little bit about the Strawberry Line project today. A fantastic idea to create a connected walk all the way through to Somerset from Clevedon. And, that uses a disused rail line and allows people to walk, cycle, gives them access if they have disabilities. And it's going to be a great project, works with the Highways Agency. And I can't wait to see what that's going to deliver with people connecting into our natural world. And projects like that are, the things that communities can champion. It's up to people like me to go get the money. That's right. But actually, the ideas for most of these things come from residents. Right? That area of special beauty that they know and no one else gets to see, because let's face it, there's some parts of our natural world which we don't access, and that's probably a good thing, right? But if we can, see them and maintain them in a sustainable way, right, where we can actually generate interest, in connecting with the natural world and, reignite, people's spark about nature. There's the bit for me that, for my kids especially, I like it when they're outside. I don't necessarily like it when they come in particularly muddy or dirty. No parent does, right? But that bit where they're playing with insects or watching them, understanding how, they interact or asking really great questions. Why are the ants on my apple tree? I can tell you why the ants are on my apple tree. I don't like that they're there, but I can tell you why.
Brilliant.
I think it's fair to say Chris and we're big fans of the strawberry line, aren't we, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. Well, our good friends at Yatning Congsbury, Yakwag, Yatning Congsbury Wildlife Action Group. They're kind of like I always want to call them a sister group to us, but they were around a lot longer than we were. So.
Oh God, no, they are our.
They're our grandparents, I think.
I know. Sadiq, can you take we got a question here from viewer Laura. She says, how could you improve access to nature for disabled people? From Laura, who met you at the pub earlier.
That is a fantastic question. Projects like the Strawberry Line have that built in, right? That's what we need to do. We need to fund, right, so that people of every shape, size, color, disability can go and enjoy nature, because it's not always easy, right? You have this idea of a forest, right? And, we don't want to say put a car park next to it, but we do want to be able to have routes in so that people can safely get there, because immediately you go disabled access, but actually as well, you want to be able to allow people who are, not necessarily walk as well as they could to be able to access them as well. Right? So just because if you're elderly or slightly infirm doesn't mean you shouldn't have access to nature. We all deserve the opportunity to engage with the wildlife around us and enjoy some of the wonder. And so what would I do? I would champion accessibility of our green spaces while making sure they're still there. Because, at this rate, we are one of the most nature depleted countries in the world.
Can I cut in? Can I cut in there so that you can just basically say that I think you're absolutely right. And I know exactly where Laura's coming from, because there's obviously bits of the environment, the natural environment around Portishead, and she's a Portishead person that she cannot physically access. And we've talked about this, and she's tried to bring it up at quite high level, and it's just like you're pushing at a completely closed door. Most of that is to do with the fact that it's not Aubrey Wharf, it's not the Strawberry Line. There are gradients involved, and when I've always felt very, very strongly that if we exclude people from the nature that surrounds us, in 10 years' time, when we go to those people and say, this is a special area, it's threatened, it needs to be protected, and I've actually had this before, people will turn around and say, what area? We're not allowed in there. And so we need, exactly as you said, we need everybody to have the access, but at the same time, protect the wildlife. Now, that can be done. I've seen it on the Somerset levels, where you've got good access for people in wheelchairs in the Somerset levels on nature reserves. And either side of that, you have enough wild habitat that the wildlife itself feels protected. And I've actually walked with a disabled person along a track on the Somerset levels, and I've had a kingfisher hovering next to me and been able to show that person the kingfisher. And the only way that can be done is if you still create enough wild area for the animals to feel safe and the people to have a decent trackway to go through. It can be done. It really can.
I 100% agree with you, Chris. It just needs somebody, to champion it. And, the bit that, gets me is if we don't start connecting with nature and, allowing it to be accessible to people, we do run the risk of letting it slip away. If if our nature doesn't have champions, we could end up with, a future where we don't have, a green space to enjoy. We don't have a green belt, to protect us from the sprawl of the cities. And, that will be a very sad North Somerset to live in. I mean, it's a sad one now. We have some absolutely fantastic bits of, scenery that we don't really connect with.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the questions that we did ask Liam Fox was, how do we balance the need for more housing with the natural environment? Because we have we have a terrible housing problem at the moment. We have a terrible housing shortage. Now, I would say part of that is to do with, I think we need to rebalance how we view property and view housing in this country. But how as a prospective candidate for the region, how would you balance the need to build houses with the need to protect the environment?
First of all, right, in North Somerset, we have a bit of a problem with this. Right, because we're 40% greenbelt and we have a lot of land which sits in the floodplain, it's hard to find suitable housing sites. I get that, but greenbelt must be protected. There are, kind of grey belt land that Keir Starmer talks about, quite frequently, and that, that is our optimum kind of, territory to be able to expand some of our housing developments. But realistically, we need to think about new towns. We can't just lump more developments onto existing infrastructure and public services, because you can see across the entire country, not just North Somerset, public services are completely strained. We haven't invested in them sufficiently for 14 years. So, that's why you can't, see a GP when you want to. You can't go to a dentist when you want to, or you can't find an NHS one at all. And we can't just make those problems worse by slapping more houses at the end of them. So houses in themselves are not a solution to, the housing crisis. They have to come with the services to support them, and they need to be well thought out areas. Often property developers have purchased large amounts of our green belt, and they do so on a speculative basis, hoping that they can then make a kind of a housing development in that area. But actually, our housing needs do need to be solved, but with probably more conversion of sites that are currently unused or underutilized or grey belt areas. But also we have some development land around Nailsea that might be suitable, but again, it's kind of the Backwell area, and it's kind of looking at a meadow out and then thinking, will that be better as houses? It is a tough balance. It really is. But I mean, for North Somerset, I think we need to deliver around 12 to 14,000 houses in the next, the next kind of plan for North Somerset Council. And, that's pushing up the prices of houses in the area and making them unaffordable for younger people who are now coming onto the property ladder. What we don't want is to have a whole generation of house buyers being forced out of the area and away from their family and their connections. That's not the kind of area we want. So yes, we do need to build houses, but they also need to be built in the right way. They need to be built so that they actually respect the environment around them and protect the look and feel of our communities. Because slapping a new build project in the middle of 18th century cottages doesn't smell right to me. We need to make sure that also we look at how the transport infrastructure can support them as well. Because if you look at the lanes that access some of our small settlements, they're not suitable for 250 cars, to go through a rush hour. Especially if you look at the airport development. If you look around Feltham, Thursday night, Friday night there, people will stay late in their job rather than risk the traffic, because farmers literally have to open fields to let people through. So we need to think about how our solutions to this housing problem that we all face is actually going to deliver better quality housing that is affordable, is in the right location, and doesn't damage the infrastructure around it and the public services, or has those services provided in. So it's not an easy answer to the question. I totally agree.
It's more like properly planning for the future rather than reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be nice, wouldn't it? And I think we do a lot of reactive work. I mean, I'm a pharmacist, and if you look at the health service now, it's completely reactive. It's not preventative. Yeah. And that's because, 14 years we've stopped our preventative agenda. You'll get some isolated pockets like GPs who will, really push the envelope and, deliver some preventative, services. But actually, we wait for people to get sick a lot now. And, 14 years ago, it wasn't the way. And that's quite hard to see in the community day to day.
We've got a comment. Sorry to say, we've got a comment here from viewer Laura, who says, "My opinion is it's less about the creation of more housing, but the lack of accompanying infrastructure. Need more land in public ownership." Now, this was, Chris may remember this. This was something I kind of challenged the old Portishead Town Council. This is going back about 10 years ago. Is that I said to them that as a town council, you need to say to North Somerset Council, we cannot sustain any more development in this town until the infrastructure improves, and
or we get a railway as well. I mean, let's face it, we have been, 2010, the railway project was about to start. Then austerity came in. Yeah. And, you know, we were all on the cusp of getting a railway in Pill and Portishead. And, you know, now we're at the cusp of getting it again. And, you know, I personally think the transport infrastructure getting in and out of Portishead is really, really bad at rush hour. From my experience of it, it's, you know, it is challenging. And, you know, we want to, you know, decarbonize our future and meet our, you know, net zero obligations. If we keep having more and more cars and dedicate all our transport options to cars, we're not really going to get there as quick as we want. So I'm a big fan of, you know, getting the railway where it needs to be after, 64. Yeah, so...
Thing is, I can remember actually. I can actually remember using the railway from Portishead into Bristol, because we used to do school runs, and so this is like the late 1970s. We had a day trip out in Bath, and so we got on the train from Portishead railway station. So I've been on that line. It just. How you can have, I know this is a separate issue, but how you can have a town that just keeps being developed, but the lifelines it needs to keep itself breathing and sustainable just keep being cut away all the time, and it doesn't make sense.
For me, you know, it's one of the many problems I have with Tory austerity. And I'm going to take my political ribbon off for a moment, but we can't cut our way into, you know, growing infrastructure. We can't cut our way into preventing the problems we face in our world at the moment, you know, whether it's security, whether it's food security, whether we're talking about, you know, transport infrastructure. We can't be a reactive country and a reactive government. Otherwise, this is what we get. We get, you know, where we are now, where I can't throw a dart at public services without finding a huge structural problem, a staffing problem, and people who are unhappy with the service it provides.
Yeah. Chris?
Climate change. Obviously, we're going to see some quite dramatic changes. And in terms of some of the species that I look at locally, we're already beginning to see that with certainly a decline in the garden where I live of some of those common species. We've had a massive failure of birds nesting this year, and I'm talking to a few of my friends across into Europe as well, and they're saying that they've got the same problems, but it's a different type of weather, but it's also fairly extreme. Well, I think we need to try and get to is a situation where we're almost future-proofing some of our environments. And if you take a leaf out of what I said about the tawny owls earlier, it's using that nature-based solution. So when, for example, you're talking about developments, I think we've got to put in place is things like where we've got busy roads. We know from the work that was done in London that if you have lines of trees and mature hedges,
particularly birch and silver birch trees, they absorb more particulates than other types of tree because there's more hairs on their leaves.
Yeah,
I read the same thing, Chris.
Yeah, and so, you know, when we plan for our developments, we need to plan for nature as well, and nature as in helping us, going along side by side all the time, as opposed to creating an estate which is completely environmentally sterile.
Which is what we're building at the moment.
Yes.
Development after development, site after site. I mean, we at the moment are in a point of failure to reverse the trend of species extinction. As far as I know, 1 in 6 species are now at risk of extinction. And, you know, we are in a situation where we need to start thinking about how we grow nature-rich habitats, like wetlands or peat bogs or forests again. So, you know, that actually there's wildlife to explore, because in North Somerset we may have 40% greenbelt, but how much of it is biodiverse, and rich in biodiversity? Because there's a lot of people saying, oh, let's protect a field, right? If it's not going to be biodiverse, how do we improve it? How do we turn it to what it should have been? Because we're in this legacy of having farmed a large amount of the country. We've changed the way our our green areas look. So what can we do to enhance it? And Chris and Jonathan, I want you to give me the answer. You tell me, what do you want? Do you want a peat bog? Do you want some wetlands?
Well, again, that's what I would say is, if you're creating a wetland, and these things are beginning to creep in now, where wetlands are being created basically because of the fact that those people designing those areas know darn well what's coming. And and they're also being used at the same time as carbon store. Obviously, we see a lot of trees being planted. From a conservation point of view, you would stand back and look at some of that and just basically scratch your head and say, well, is this the right place? And is actually some of the tree planting affecting some of the really scarce species that we've got? So what we need, and Jonathan and I have always had problems with this, what we need is the grown-up, around the table conversation, especially with the power people, with the people who make the decisions.
We need to review. There's an environmental improvement plan, right, that exists, and we actually, one of the steps we're going to do when we get into government, fingers crossed, on the 4th of July. And don't forget, you don't get change if you don't vote. Don't believe a poll until you've cast your vote. So with it, we need to review it to ensure it's fit for purpose, because it's not delivering for nature or the environment at the moment. It obviously isn't working, or we're not listening to it. So, we need to review that, and we probably need to beef up some of the ideas and suggestions in there to actually be able to hit what we want to do with regards, net zero and, protecting and, restoring some of our green spaces and environment. Because one of the things Labour wants to do is rebuild our environmental kind of, wildlife species and make sure that we protect them for future generations. So one of the things I've quite enjoyed while being out over the last 6.5, 7 months talking to residents, particularly in Portishead, is I've learned a lot about bird species, funnily enough, knocking on doors in Portishead, because all of the roads in the marina development, I mean, I didn't know what stone chat is a bird, right? And apparently it's a bird that sounds like the sound of 2 stones hitting.
I could be quite cynical about that and say that a lot of the names of those roads are named after the places that those birds used to live.
Really? Well, I mean, apart from Phoenix, which I still have yet to see.
Oh yeah, any of them. But
except in Harry Potter.
Yes. Well, yeah, of course. But yeah, I can be cynical about it, but at the same time, I've been past those roads, and my cynic hat basically says, well, when this wasn't here, all these species were here. But then the other side of me thinks, well, hang on, there's a history lesson I think that people must know about. And so, yeah, I think if we need the conversation, and as far as I'm concerned, the conversation isn't happening. There are those that have the conversation, the decisions are made, and off they go. I don't know
Can you
remember the 2019 election? I don't know if you were standing.
Yes, I remember that election.
So I went to several hustings, and the reason why I was interested to go along, it was with one question. Well, it was kind of like another one of those double-edged questions, so to speak, and that was because every single party was trying to outdo one another for how many millions of trees they were going to plant. So I would stand up at every single hustings and say, excuse me, where are you going to plant the trees? Who is going to look after them if you're planting them? And the nature's not looking after them. And there were no answers coming back. So this was just kind of like, well, we're just going to plant trees. That's it. Oh, there you go. There's a few million trees there. And that, to me, is not the answer. Again, it goes back to the housing thing. It's got to be planned properly. Sit back, plan, discuss, then action.
I mean, forest needs management if we're going to have a human-built forest, because they don't naturally form into what we see and walk about without some careful planning and development. Given how quickly we want to do it versus how many hundreds or thousands of years they evolved over. So I totally agree with you. We need to make sure we have grown-up decisions and aren't just looking for a gimmick. You'll see from our manifesto, which I'll hold my hand up, is a little bit boring because of the position we're in as a country, but I'm super excited what we've been able to deliver and how we've managed to find money from whether we're cutting kind of some of the tax loopholes or some efficiency savings, but we've managed to deliver quite a sustainable agenda for our country without kind of raising the tax burden. And in that is our commitment as well to biodiversity, to the environment, making sure as well that we look at how our energy is produced so that we move the country forward, because we haven't. Over the last 14 years we've all gone backward as a country, whether it's with our green spaces, our biodiversity, or our energy use. It's just it hasn't progressed as where we wanted it to be. So we will rebuild what's broken.
Sadiq, we've just busted through the 33-minute mark, so I think you've gone over the allotted time that you gave us. Can you hang on for another minute or two, or
you can have me for 2 more minutes? Do you need me to do some kind of rousing save the environment statement, because we do need to?
I think over to you then.
Over to you.
Our green spaces are incredibly important. So everybody watching, I want you to come up with ideas about what you would like to see from accessibility, so that we can get out there and look and see and enjoy nature. Also think about, what's your favourite green space in North Somerset? Is it Portbury Wharf Nature Reserve like mine? Or is it, a trail that you particularly like to walk? What needs protecting? What should we do to make it better? How can we help make our environment something that everybody wants to interact with? Is there some kind of school project we can do? Is somebody from a local school watching thinking, God, I'd love nature to be in our school? Because I've seen some great examples of connecting children with the idea that they can grow nature. My kids brought me home some plants for Father's Day, and I've only killed one of them. So this is important things that we can do. And I'm here to live your suggestions. You tell me what you want. That's the job of an MP. I'm not here to tell you what you want. I have to listen. That's the job.
It's one of the ethoses of Wild Portishead right from the very beginning is community ground up approach, not a top down imposed. So we've never gone out to tell anybody what to do, but if people want to do it, it has to be ground up. It has to be from the public level. And I think, Sadiq, in all honesty, that's the only way a project gets longevity.
Yep,
I agree.
absolutely.
You have to get engagement. You have to get engagement from the people who are going to be wanting to use it, deliver it, and live it every single day. And I have a business background, so I look after a team of 75, and the projects that work well are the projects that they come up with and they live and breathe. That's what we deliver well. And that's the same in business, environment, everywhere. If people want it and they really believe in it, then it will work and it will happen. And with it, I really believe in protecting our green spaces, and I believe we can make it happen, and I believe we can make them better for everybody, so that we can all enjoy nature for the 100 and 150 years to come, and we can actually save the planet, protect ourselves from the climate crisis, and make sure that we have the resources and the green spaces and the affordable homes that we need. All together, there is a perfect possible future,
and
we can live it.
As a pharmacist yourself, you must obviously continually tell people about the health and well-being aspects of being in and amongst nature.
Do you know what? Exercise benefit. Even actually, funnily enough, going into nature lowers your blood pressure. Not even just from the exercise, right? It's fantastic, right? You cannot do better, right, than regular outdoor exercise in beautiful scenery. Right? Unless you also don't drink enough water, in which case make sure you drink enough water. Pharmacist advice 101. Right? No one ever drinks enough water.
That's
You always say, no,
my
Chris, you're still not having enough. A little bit more.
Sadiq, you mentioned Stone Chat, and I did manage to find a picture that was taken at Battery Point a couple of years ago. It was one of my pictures, and there is a Stone Chat. Absolutely.
You know what? That is exactly what I wanted from mentioning it. I was hoping you'd pull out a picture for me so I can actually see what the bird looks like.
Yeah, there it is. It looks like
the other bit is, does this mean you're going to start doing guided tours of Portishead, right? Talking about the birds on each of the roads?
We already do walks and things for the public, but I mean the Stone Chat's one of those birds that locally used to breed. When I was a kid, it was a breeding bird locally. Now it's more or less just a wintering species, but they are breeding not very far away. So, and most of the influx we get from them is actually in the winter. They normally come, normally get the big influx of them coming probably when we have that first high pressure system during the winter. So they're not the leading edge of that, with a lot of other birds as well. But beautiful bird, and very much like a robin in its actions, so to speak. Very closely related.
I think we're out of time, Sadiq. We just want to say a big thank you for joining us at such short notice tonight. Absolutely, really do appreciate that. And anything else you want to say, Sadiq?
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for having me. Talking about the environment in green spaces is, something I very much enjoy. So let's go all save the green belt and make sure that we have a future environment so that we can get everybody in it and enjoying nature and hopefully improve their health.
Brilliant. Sadiq Al Hassan, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice one. Bye now.
Bye. Chris, I've just got a little bit of housekeeping before we wrap up tonight.
Housekeeping? What do you want me to do, the washing up or something?
Well, that would be nice, actually. I'm just going to share screen. My trail cams. I've had hogs up and down the path. Now, one of the things I will point out is now that there is plenty of food available, I'm making sure that there is fresh water for them every night, but I'm not putting any food down for them anymore. Which sounds a bit harsh, but they've got plenty of food that they can go for. Yeah, that's a fair assessment, isn't it?
It should be. I mean, your garden. I don't know your garden well, apart from pictures you sent me, but yes, if it's like ours and it's pretty much wilded, it should have all the resources that they need in it, in order to feed. And don't forget, they're not just going to your garden, so they're on a journey.
Yeah,
so they're going to other gardens as well. So they might actually, if you were to feed them, and your neighbours feed them, and everyone else feeds them, then they're actually not eating anything natural at all.
Well, to be honest with you, there's still on that path. There's still plenty of spillings from the seed spillings from the bird feeders. So there's still stuff coming down. But the other visitor I've had is our friend the badger, and in fact, I've had a pair of badgers in the garden.
Is this since the last time?
This was the 21st, so this was 3 days ago.
Okay.
And I think I showed you on the video on the last show the incident of the badger and the hog meeting up, and but the one final thing I want to talk about tonight, if I may, and that is my sunflowers.
Oh yeah.
My sunflower saga. Now, I've been desperately trying to grow sunflowers this year. I actually did manage to get 20 odd seedlings, raise them, put them into pots. I actually put them on my front garden because there is a gravel section, and I thought, brilliant, that nothing is going to get across that gravel. One tub of them, I even put in sand. as a next. No, look at that. All gone. They all got eaten. Most of them got eaten. So I've tried other ways of stopping the mollusks from having a free lunch on.
You need a hedgehog, mate.
Got a hedgehog, right? This was today's idea. I've got, you know, that copper tape that you can buy.
Yeah.
I've got some of that. Yeah, it doesn't do a sausage anyway. So this is what I did today.
Hang on. Have you tried the dregs from a bottle of beer in a saucer?
No, because I drink the dregs of a bottle of beer, Chris. Come on, be sensible for a moment.
You can spare a little bit for the slugs.
I suppose I could. This is what I did. This evening was. There is my pot. It's got anti-slug tape on it. Ha ha ha. But my garden is absolutely rich in brambles. So some of the long strands that are growing out a bit, I chop them up into short sections of a couple of inches, one of which I was able to actually use to support the sunflower. But the rest of them I've chopped up and laid as a kind of bramble minefield, I think is the best way of describing that. So I defy, I'm not going to sacrifice one tonight just to see if it's going to work, but I defy any mollusk to get through that lot.
Well, I mean, you obviously, now you've put it out to the public, so somebody will come back and say, yes, tried that. But if it hasn't been tried, I think it could be brand new information. I think you should put a trail cam on that, so you get actual evidence, whether they do go across the thorns or not.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a sneaking suspicion they're more intelligent than you think, but
I'm from Dudley, Chris. It's not hard.
I'm prepared to be corrected. It's not a problem. So I would say get a trail cam, put it on there, and see if they do get across. Although the slugs move slow, I can guarantee you the darn things do trigger a trail cam.
They do, because the number of times I've actually had nothing on my trail cams on the path, but slugs and snails tripping it off. Yes. But what I'm going to do tonight is I am definitely not going to sacrifice another one of my precious sunflowers. But what I will do is I'll set up the trail cam and I'll put a couple of the pots out there, and I'll put the remnants of my salad leaves in there. Some nice juicy, lettuce and tomatoes and things. Yeah. They'll go for that. And then we'll see what happens. So
okay. Stay tuned. Hey, we're back on air tomorrow, aren't we?
We are on air tomorrow, and we are talking to the Liberal Democrat candidate, Ashley Cartman. So, no, wrong one. I know.
Sorry.
I haven't got around to putting the branding up, actually. Yeah, we've got Ashley Cartman on tomorrow night. So, we'll correct that for tomorrow night. Don't worry. That's it, Chris. We're out of time. So I'll see you.
Once Ashley's come and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've had the Greens.
Yeah.
Conservative.
Yeah.
Labour tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Dems tomorrow. 4. That's not bad. There's 2 more to go, but one we can't get hold of. The other one we've sent message to, but we haven't heard back. So tomorrow, I think it's probably the final one, isn't it, of our election?
I get the funny feeling that unless fingers are pulled out, there's really not much we can do. And the point is, we have reached out to all the candidates in this election, so nobody can. Nobody can complain that they've been left out, because we're trying our best. There we go. Tomorrow night's show. There we go. So, and with a bit of luck, we might be able to do a quick thing on what happened with the slug cam. So
yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good.
Well, thank you everybody who's watched tonight. Thank you, Chris.
Slug soap opera.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll see you all again tomorrow night when we'll be talking to Ashley Cartman, the Lib Dem. So until then, thank you for watching. Stay safe. Get out there and enjoy the nature. So see you later.
Good sunset.